Hello, and welcome to Change the Face of Yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies. I'm very excited to be talking to lots of yoga teachers who will explain their passion for teaching yoga to students with different ages, physical fitness levels, wellness levels, and different goals. They will explain the benefits of yoga for these students and will be including teacher tips and pose modifications. I am Stephanie Cunningham of Yoga Lightness, and I've been teaching over 50s for 10 years. So this area is my passion and the passion of many other yoga teachers that you will be listening to in this series. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get started. This is episode 012, and we're going to be talking to Naina about her very successful chair yoga business. Very excited about my guest today. It's Naina Chresna. You want to help me with that one too?
Yes, I will. It's Naina Cresta.
Cresta. Okay, good. Who is, she's been doing yoga for 19 years. She has noticed that a lot of her students who come to her have experienced or are experiencing losses in life, and that aging was another prevalent issue. And I think this is very exciting. Said goodbye to working in welfare and mental health to become a full-time yoga teacher. So how is that working for you?
It's been a wonderful journey. I've really loved it. It's just all happened very naturally, and my teaching days are increasing, my classes are increasing, and it just seems to have been the best decision that I've made so far in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great, because it's hard to be a full-time yoga teacher without another source of income, I think. And I think you must be doing a really wonderful job for that to be occurring so well and so naturally. And you have a special interest in the elderly population. And I looked at your Facebook, and I noticed that you have lots and lots of classes all over the Central Coast. And so you're really doing a lot of traveling, giving a lot of different elderly people the opportunity on the Central Coast to have these courses. Have you found that that's really contributing by doing that?
I've done, as you remember, I've done some senior yoga training with you, and that's been something that I've been wanting to immerse myself in for a while. And when I started to work in one of the retirement villages where one of my ex-yoga students lives, I noticed that there was a real need for teaching yoga to those people who actually have a lot of limitations. So I'm talking about one of the main limitations being not being able to get up and down on the floor. So in the Central Coast, we have senior yoga available, but not really much caters to the people who can't get up and down on the floor. So to me, what became available was chair yoga, and I really immersed in studying chair yoga and also teaching chair yoga. And it's just been so amazing to teach this group of people, this population in the Central Coast, because as you know, yoga is just such a wonderful, wonderful way for people to find something that they're really looking for, whether it is, finding relaxation or finding more flexibility or finding something a bit more invigorating or just having a group to get together and have fun. And I really, there was so little available for this population in the Central Coast, and it's just been so wonderful teaching this population, and I think they're thoroughly thankful that there is something for them and that they can get together as a group and do something that is meaningful and that gives them exactly what they're looking for. So it's well worth the travel. I don't regret, a single kilometer traveled to any of the senior citizen centers or retirement villages. And I'm hoping to inspire other yoga teachers to, look at this group of people in their own community and see if they would, want to share yoga amongst them in their community.
Oh, I see. Well, that's wonderful. Why do you feel, or what's your opinion about why there are so few yoga classes for seniors in a chair?
I think on first sight, it probably, especially for the younger teachers, I think it probably lacks a little bit of dynamics for teaching. Mm-hmm. I think when I first started yoga, I was really into practicing hard and regularly, and very body conscious, and I think if I had started teaching at such an early age, I probably would have wanted to teach something that was more in line with, having that vitality and that strength and wanting to feel that all the time. And I think I see the senior population overlooked. I'm not sure if this is a worldwide phenomenon or if this is just very specific here, but I find that they're quite overlooked in some ways. There's a bit of a cultural gap, and I think we tend to forget. I was even actually reflecting on the Yoga Alliance not having a badge for specifically teaching senior yoga when we have that same criteria for teaching pregnant women. I think we need to put that same care into teaching seniors. And so I just think it's something that needs a little bit more education around. I can't say that senior yoga isn't a lucrative business from that perspective. I think that obviously, people are on a senior's pension, and so I can't ask for a lot of price, but they do usually come in large groups, and so I can't say that would be a hindrance if people are considering that maybe there's no money to be made in senior yoga. But ultimately, I think it's just a lack of education of how much fun it can actually be. I laugh so much in my classes. I feel so connected with my students, and it's such a gratifying job to have with this population in the Central Coast. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think they're missing out, whoever's not teaching them.
Well, as I teach seniors too, I know what you're talking about, but why don't you share with us what was your biggest surprise about your chair yoga classes?
I think some of the surprises were the initial hesitation to come to a class. So, a lot of the questions I'm getting from seniors is, is this a religion, and is this going to interfere with my religion? And, or, other concepts of yoga where people think that yoga is all about, becoming a pretzel or meditating in a cave for 20 years, or it's really, it's been quite interesting to kind of debunking some of those things that are associated to yoga in a false way, of course. So, that it isn't a religion, and that it doesn't interfere, and that obviously in chair yoga or most senior yoga classes, we're not going to go and put our legs behind our ears or any of those things. So I think what really surprised me was the myth around yoga that a lot had. And most of my students that come to class are either coming because they've seen posts on my Facebook page that kind of explain a little bit more as to what yoga is and what they can expect, but also referrals. So a lot of people bring their friends and family, and that's kind of how they then realize that yoga or chair yoga has got nothing to do with some of those things that they worry about. As a matter of fact, they usually end up leaving class saying, I never knew how relaxing, those parts of meditation are, and the whole breath consciousness, I think, is so valuable to most of the students in my class to start realizing that, wow, my breath has a real effect on my mood and how I feel altogether. And if I become more aware of my breath, I can actually manage some of these mood swings or some of these experiences much better. So it's been really, really great actually to help debunk some of their worries and to get them to realize that, there's so many things that they can get out of it. And as I said earlier, every person walks out of class with something different.
Right. But the benefits are not really well known, but once you do a class with them, it becomes much more obvious to them. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely, yeah. And I do encourage people to just come and sit in and have a watch. They can sit in the group or they can sit outside of the group. I totally welcome anybody to just come and have a look before they make a decision. A lot of my students, they come to me after having had knee surgery and hip surgery. And I've also got a fair amount of students who are hoping to get a little bit of a better hold of their Parkinson's symptoms. And so they often come to me thinking that there's not really anything in it for them, but they just want to have a look. And then after the class, they realize that there's so much they can actually do. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I've got a paraplegic lady in my class, and obviously she can't do any of the standing exercises that we do, the asanas, but we had this chat about it, and she said, what do you think I can do? And I said to her, do you think you can just imagine doing it? Imagine that your legs are doing it. And so she did that in the next class, and it was amazing. She worked a sweat sitting. And I really felt like she was there mentally. She was doing it, and it was just such an amazing experience to see her. And she keeps coming back for the classes, even though she knows that for part of the class when people are standing, she's not doing the same exercises, but she's there with us, and that's just amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. That I took a workshop with Lisa Bidgood, who does spinal injury, and brain injury, and it is really amazing what can be done even when people have those serious injuries, and yoga really can contribute there too. And I'm not surprised at your story, but I'm really glad to hear about it. It's just another confirmation of how much chair yoga can do for people. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything that you have been, shall we say, negatively surprised by in starting this chair yoga classes around the Central Coast?
Well, like I said, sometimes breaking through those myths can be a little bit of a challenge. I found that there's some ups and some downsides at working in senior citizen centers. Some of them are run really well, and some of them are not run so well. And I'm used to having my own attendance list and managing all this myself and depending on what senior citizen center I work for, they kind of want to do this themselves. And if I have, let's say, a couple of students drop out, I don't really, because of privacy issues, I can't give them a call and just check that they're okay. So for me, that's not the most pleasant experience, but they're just, little niggly bits that are specific to, where you offer your courses. And that's something that I'm learning. I'm going to explore some of the community centers as opposed to the senior citizen centers, and see how I can maybe offer some evening courses, because there's plenty of seniors that still work and they can't come to the daytime courses. So that's something that I'd like to offer ultimately. And there was also a big interest in yoga nidra by itself. And yet again, it's so interesting that people come to these classes and they really don't know anything about yoga, and then they get introduced to these little elements, and yoga nidra is really something that people really seem to enjoy. So altogether, I've found that it was a really positive experience. Because I do work with a fragile population in the Central Coast, I think I naturally always worry. And that's probably one of the downsides of working in senior yoga. But I guess if I didn't worry, they wouldn't be safe. So it's a good thing.
That's right. I understand that one. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm waste a couple of times in the middle of classes going, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think my teaching really reflects that, where, before I go into a pose, I really thoroughly think about who's in my class and who needs to have the verbal adjustment, or the verbal, this is your pose and all the other ones do this, and without trying to expose that person. So that could be the tricky part of teaching seniors.
Yes. It is. I agree. You said that you were working in retirement villages, and I've had a lot of people talk to me about working in retirement villages. How did you make how did you get people interested, or did you go to the management? Did you talk to the individuals who live there, or how do you work that?
My first teaching job at a retirement village was organized by my student. So my student used to come to my studio classes, and then it was just getting too much. He's got Parkinson's, and he found it too hard to travel back and forth to the studio and do the class and then travel back. So he was the one who said he couldn't come to my classes anymore. And I said, how can I help? And he said, would you consider teaching at my retirement village? And I said, let's, have a look into it. And he, in the meantime, he's already done lots of preparations and spoke to the center manager and organized for me to come in and meet some of the people that were interested, and the center manager. And that the next week I started teaching there. So that was really easy. It also helped that the center manager had a practice of yoga for the last 18 years. So she was very pro yoga. Yeah. But I think because I had I already had a teaching experience in a retirement village, I was then able to start inviting some of the people from the neighboring retirement villages into the same place. Mm-hmm. And then word got around, and the Central Coast, thankfully, has got lots of retirement villages. So word spread, and they, one friend had another friend, and so they spoke to their center manager, and they got me in touch with them. So somehow I think for me it was kind of getting the foot in the door with one retirement village really helped. And it also helps when you have somebody within the center advocating for you who's already done your classes. Mm-hmm. And I'm just in the process of making some informative brochures that I was going to drop off to a couple of other retirement villages and have a chat with them to see if we can introduce senior yoga into their retirement villages as well. But I've got to say, the experience teaching in a retirement village is really intimate and beautiful. And what I also found is that the community within the retirement village, they really love the yoga philosophy. And sharing that and exploring that together, which has been just such a wonderful aspect of teaching to, delve more into that with the group.
So are you teaching them like Yamas and Niyamas? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Or the kleshas. And I'm just kind of introducing these concepts, but in a, usable kind of way so that they can kind of have a think about it. And sometimes the following week they want to have a share as to what that meant for them and what came up for them. And if, something lifted. And it's been really fascinating. I've learned so much from this group.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because with their, well, I don't know if it was this particular group, but with perhaps the religious issue, to then go into the yamas and niyamas and the kleshas, which are really more of a societal rules to live rather than a religious rule to live. I just think it's fascinating. I've done some of that. I've done gratitude and some of that, but I haven't gone into it in great detail. But I think I am amazed when I've been doing this podcast and talking to people using lots and lots of different, teaching lots and lots of different people and using lots and lots of different techniques, how many people are using the yamas and the niyamas and the kleshas to help them with lots of different populations. So I think it's much more prevalent than I think I was aware. Like I said, I have done some, but I haven't done a lot, and so I'm really glad to hear that it's so well accepted by so many different groups.
Yeah, well, I do find if there is a level of trust within a group, and this one particular class, they have just beautiful cohesion, and they're very philosophical. They love to reflect on life, and that's just really worked very well to them. For them, not every class is as receptive, and I know to lay low in some of the other classes, but it's really, for me, I'm a very big fan of the yoga philosophy. So wherever I can explore that, I'm really thankful that the space is available for that.
Great. That's wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that. Are there some poses that your students and yourself particularly like to do in chair yoga?
I usually remember the ones that people don't like to do so much, because that's where the groaning and the moaning comes out. I think, that's a really hard a question to answer, because at the end of the day, everybody's very different. And some people, I think there seems to be a little bit of men have a tendency to want to loosen up in their hips and in their upper body, and women are much happier if they seem to be able to open their hearts and relax their shoulders and kind of do more of the upper body work. I think the sitting poses are more preferred to the standing poses in chair yoga, but then I think the standing poses are very important, especially with the focus on fall prevention, which is a very big focus in my classes. So I want people to become really comfortable on their feet again. So we do deconstruct standing a little bit and really have a look at how do we stand and how do we hold our bodies, and really becoming mindful of where the hips are in relation to the feet and all of that. So I can't say there is any favorite poses. I think whenever we do, like Trikonasana or warrior poses, they feel a lot more like yogis than anything else.
Yeah.
So they feel like they're doing real yoga.
Real yoga, yes.
That's right. But we do the sun salutation version on the chair, and I think they really enjoy that. It's almost a little bit like a dance. Mm-hmm. So, and that really kind of teaches that connection with the breath. I think that they really do enjoy that. But as I said, I think usually the comments are about the poses that they're not so crazy about. And that yet again depends on the person's issue, whether they have issues with their knees or with their shoulders or.
Yeah. I understand. I always get a few complaints about any of the ab poses that I do. They don't pay much attention to their abs until they have to do something, and then it becomes more of a focus, and they don't really like that very much. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and same with the heart opening, chest opening. I was trying to explain to my classes that the head weighs around 5 kilos. And if we have our necks tilted forward, then it's much harder to hold those 5 kilos than if we place our neck above our spine. Mm-hmm. And really kind of bring some awareness around where is our head in relation to the rest of the spine. And it's true though, when the moment you start to focus on a particular area, you can kind of over focus on it, and then the tension starts and the breathing stops and the frowns come out. So
yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Okay, well, this has been just a lovely talk, and of course, this is my passion, senior yoga too. So I love talking to people that also like to work in this area. Is there any thing you'd like to end with? Would you like to give some advice, or would you just like to anything that you'd like to get out, that you'd like to tell the audience?
Well, I've been toying with the idea of starting to do senior yoga retreats, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was thinking about it. And locally, I want to make it accessible to anybody in the local area. And the reason this came up is because one of my students, she said that her daughter had been on a yoga retreat, and how lovely would it be if that was available for seniors. And it kind of occurred to me that there's not really much out there in that area, and how wonderful that would be to, get away and go to a beautiful location, practice daily yoga, practice daily meditation, maybe discuss some of the dietary adjustments you can make to, experience less muscle pain, and kind of have an all-round beautiful weekend retreat or a week retreat. So that's something that I'm definitely going to have a think about, how I could do that and who I could invite to co-facilitate this with me. So we have a really rounded retreat. And I'll be posting that on my Facebook page once that is ready. But I should probably have one ready this year, maybe by the end of the year. Yeah,
that's really exciting. I had let me know how that goes, because I think that's just a lovely thing to do. I've got senior students, maybe they'd also like to come.
Yeah, maybe we can co-facilitate, Stephanie. That'd be great fun.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nana. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And of course, I love your topic. So I think that's great too. If you all would like to get in touch with Nana, she has classes in several places in the Central Coast. So it'd be probably better just to, you can email her at Nana Cresta, which is NANACHRESTA, all one word, at gmail.com. And she also has a Facebook page called Central Coast Yoga for Seniors. And so you can probably contact her through either one of those. It was just great to talk to you. It's so good to talk to you again, and just thank you so much. It was really exciting to hear how well it's going for you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for that wonderful interview. Now for the listeners. To be part of changing the face of yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies, please take a picture of yourself doing your favorite yoga pose and email it to ctfoy@yogalikeness, all one word, .com.au. That is ctfoy@yogalikeness.com.au with your first or full name. I will upload it to the Instagram folder, Changing the Face of Yoga, so we will have an album of the spectrum of students who represent the face of yoga. Please download and review this podcast and tell your friends who might be interested. Thank you, and let's get together next week.